The following video comes from security footage at a hospital where a man called Salid worked. He was doing his tasks mindlessly when suddenly some commotion began happening in the security department, and he went to inquire. A colleague of his explained that the officer had seen some sort of human shadow on the helipad where nobody should have been, and suspected that a spirit was present. Everyone knew that no one should have been on the helipad at that time. Curiously, Salid decided to ask to see the footage since he worked with incoming flights a lot, and sure enough, the shadow was not a figment of his colleague's imagination. The shadow slowly progressed along the helipad, and after seeing this, Salid was the first member of staff to alert the higher-ups. They claimed that it was likely just a camera malfunction, and that they were not going to take any further action. Should the managers have treated the situation differently? On May the 20th of 2017, a nurse was walking through a children's hospital when they noticed something that they just had to take a closer look at. The nurse was trying to get to a clinic that had called her and asked for assistance, which was rather unfortunate because she was supposed to be on her break. It was also unfortunate because it caused her to come across a spirit, and if its goal was to disturb the poor nurse, then it was definitely successful. In this video, you could see a balloon floating as if somebody was carrying it, and the likelihood is that this was caused by the ghost of a young child. This is because the children's hospital had saved many kids, but unfortunately hosted the deaths of some too, making it very likely that it was one of these past souls that haunted the hospital. When you go to work, there is usually a set routine and you stick to it. This is the case for many employees because the last thing that people want is to be unorganized and all over the place. But of course, every now and then some hurdles are thrown at you that cause the day to spiral elsewhere. This was the case for the staff present at IAMS at the time of 1 p.m. who were on their lunch break. This lunch break in particular was their favorite, because their friend group were all on shift at the time. But this time around, something unexpected happened to them. Have a watch.
Ándale, hazlo de vuelta, eso. Eso, sí. ¡Bravo! ¡Qué fantasmita! Ciérralas. Ciérralas, ándale, ciérralas. Mira. Ciérralas.
For some strange reason, the doors continued to open and close without any human interaction, and it was super clear that no one or nothing was interacting with it. It is important to note that this place had never hosted any paranormal activity before this, and this was a one-time thing, but frightening nonetheless. In case of any future similar scenarios, the boss of the place decided to bring in a ghost hunter the following week to see if they could pin down the issue. and to their fortune, there was no entity present, and this was just a one-time incident. A format that we see plenty regarding the catching of paranormal activity is a moving wheelchair, and it is unknown why this is so common when it comes to spirits in hospitals. A theory that many people suggest is that they are the poltergeists of elderly people who still rely on wheelchairs in the afterlife. But this would make zero sense because the wheelchair never moves all of the time. Regardless of what the cause is, these phenomenons occur regularly, and the piece of footage that I am going to expose you to shortly captures something like it.
Estas son las cosas que pasan aquí en CDT con Chesum. Me cago. Ándate la mierda. ¿Pero qué es eso?
Strangely, the wheelchair moved as if somebody was in it, and the person filming the incident was justifiably in utter disbelief. Of course, the hospital had hosted many deaths, so it made sense as to why it would be haunted, but the chances of this happening in front of her very eyes must have been very low. We are going back 5 years for this next clip, and it was captured using a CCTV camera system in El Salvador. The cameras were mainly placed there to deter people from committing crimes within the hospital, and the staff had no clue that it was going to live to record spirits wreaking their havoc. The cameras were placed in the corridor that attached the hospital to the morgue, but was registered as a hospital camera, so this incident did also occur inside a hospital, well, at least right besides one.
¿Y pusiste más polarizado este?
No. No, está igual, hay que mandarlo polarizar. Al 40 fue donde le jalan la...
Ahorita le están jalando, pero despacito, bien despacito. Como ven, la están jalando, está acostado. Mira yo.
¿Qué es movió?
Sí, ya movió. Del 39 empezó a moverse, ¿eh? Ahí empieza a moverse.
Así.
Mira cómo me va. Hasta ahí llega.
What looked to be some sort of hose pipe started to unravel out of its box without any external force acting upon it, meaning only one thing. This must have been a ghost. The video was very quickly posted to social media to gather the opinions of people, and the consensus was that the place was in fact haunted. You should comment your opinions on the event in the comment section down below so that I can see what our audience think. This Japanese reporter and her cameraman took a long and hard think as to what would get views. Their show had been in a drought for viewership, and they really needed a banger to revive it, so they came up with the idea of visiting the most haunted hospital on live stream by themselves. This was a silly idea, because not only were they not in the presence of experts, but they also had no equipment to detect anything. So it was obviously going to end badly and well. I will let you judge how it went.
この先にちょっと入ってみたいと思います。こう埃っぽいようななんか空気がよどんでる感じがすごくします。本当に心霊写真が撮れるかどうかいくつか写してみたいと思います。 メラ、怪我をした男性が落としたカメラですね。これ何か不気味なものが映ってます。なんだろう。
In the mind of the woman, there was another person there, but something in her mind told her that it didn't look human-like enough to actually be a person. This drove her absolutely insane, because she had no idea whether or not they were in danger, and this caused them to end the live stream and sneak out of the facility. Fortunately, they both made it out unharmed, but they were certainly scarred mentally, and you should take this as a sign to not go roaming in locations known for being haunted. In Spain, a large hospital was due an expansion, and it was closed. On a specified day, the cleaning crew were all set to come in and sort out the main areas of the hospital so that it looked nice and neat upon reopening. But during this, one of the cleaners recorded a very disturbing video on their mobile device. They were doing their job when they started noticing a trash can's lid moving, so took out their phone to try and capture it. This was not the only thing that they were able to film. Of course, the trash can was a frightening experience for the cleaner, but the fact a child sprinted past the corridor in the background was rather strange. As I stated, only the cleaning crew were supposed to be in the building at the time, and the child looked way too young to have the mind to sneak into places. Furthermore, nobody was caught trespassing in the hospital that day, so even if it was a real child, then they would have had to escape without being seen, and that would have been pretty hard whilst running. The leading theory was that this was the apparition of a spirit, and I definitely go by this theory. It is quite hard to know whether or not you have experienced a haunting or a coincidence, but there is one way that most people determine this. When a spirit is present, it is often reported that a cold and evil feeling waves over a person, almost as if they can sense the presence. The person in our following video described this feeling perfectly after uploading it and knew that something was there. All of his senses were telling him that he was being watched, and this was backed up by what happened physically. The wheelchair moved on its own accord, almost as if somebody was actually sitting in it. The man was fortunate to have caught this on his mobile camera, because the device was on 1%, so the event occurred at the perfect time, which adds even more bizarreness to the situation. There are many ways in which a person can be haunted, but there is one way that has a scare factor, far worse than any other. Before I tell you, you should have a guess in the comments and subscribe whilst you are down there. But it is apparitions. This is when a spirit shows itself to a human, and it makes sense that they are both the most rare and the most frightening things at the same time. The following one was filmed in a hospital, like all the clips in this video, and it was disturbing to put things mildly.
Uy. Oscar.
¿Qué pasó?
Marica, había un niño, huevón.
Puta.
Oscar, había un niño, huevón. Uy.
The child did not stand there for long once the camera panned to it and sprinted with an almost perfect reaction time. It is obvious that no child could respond to something like this so fast, and even the way it sprinted was uncanny, so it is fair to assume that this was an apparition. Furthermore, the man behind the camera claimed to have felt that tingly feeling that you get when an unwanted presence is there, which further proves that it was a ghost. CCTV is a useful resource used to capture all sorts of activity if humans are not present, but they never fail to film the unexpected. For example, this final video was caught on the CCTV monitoring the exterior premises of the hospital, and it managed to capture a human-like apparition.
Oye, sí, weón, yo también me quedé cojudo. Ahí al doctor Anthony Choi lo vamos a llevar.
Uy, qué
¿Dónde sale? Mira, ahí está, ahorita viene, ahí viene.
Si son fantasmas no lo va a captar.
Mira, ¿has visto?
Mira cómo sale.
¿Has visto dónde ha salido?
Caminando tranquilamente con brazos y piernas.
Félix tiene que salir de dudas.
Pasache.
¿Qué pasó? Un fantasma. Mira.
At first, it seemed as if the spirit was genuinely a human because it had the same structure and way of walking, but once it disappeared into thin air, the opposite was revealed. The following video was captured in a hospital somewhere in South America, and the moment perfectly captivates the fear of a member of staff. Operating on what she believed to be a regular old shift, she assumed all she would be doing was treating a few patients and then making her way back home. But this time around, when it became late, the most unexpected thing possible happened.
Ahí está, ya la aprendí, ¿qué pasa? ¿Qué pasa?
Ay, no. Salí de la pieza de las 4, hace un pozo cuando salí tenía otra. Cuando vine para acá, se me empezó a pegar, boludo. Me pegué un pedazo y ahora lo veo.
Esa es la estática, boludo. Está lejos.
Está viniendo para acá.
Ay, la concha de la lora. La pibita de la camacita me dijo que le tocaron la pierna, que le apretaron la pierna. Ay, mierda, se viene para acá.
Pero se viene para acá, pero tú... No. ¿Has prendido el aire algo?
¿Qué sé yo? Sí, creo que sí.
¿Tomás pirula? Vamos para adentro,
me fui la mierda, la
no,
concha
la
de
concha.
la lora. Ahí está.
Asoma
Qué
tu boludo.
largo, boludo.
¿Sí?
No. Ay, la concha de la lora. Ay, la puta que te parió.
Now, it is pretty difficult to decipher what this video was actually about, but to put it easily, that orange ball must have been some form of spirit. Purely based on the reactions of the staff members in the area, this never happened in the hospital before, so it is more than safe to assume it was an anomaly, but it is the type of anomaly that we are unsure about. The nurse and her assistant both showcased the final video to their boss, who surprisingly did not show any sympathy towards them. They continued to work in the hospital, but this moment remained engraved in their mind. This next video is very old compared to the other ones that I tend to discuss on this channel, but just as creepy as the rest. It took place in a clinic whilst 2 nurses had 10 minutes to kill. They had just finished treating a patient and needed to wait for their next one to arrive, and this explains why they were laughing and messing around. Despite the vibes being through the roof, and both nurses seemingly having a great time though, some sort of exterior entity did not seem to be fond of the joy that they were experiencing and interrupted by doing this.
Es que te estoy enfocando a las boobies. Ah, no mames.
¿Qué?
Pasó algo.
¿Qué pasó? No mames.
A ver, ven. No mames, pasó algo, te lo juro que pasó algo, ¿eh?
Se mueve, se mueve.
Vete a la verga.
Yo no voy.
No mames.
The male nurse heard a bang from the neighboring room, so decided that it would be the smart move to go and investigate. You always have to be alert for things like this in case a patient is trying to escape, or some form of intruder is trying to break in. But of course, as you and I both know, it was none of these things. The trolley in the room slid away from the man, and the female nurse quickly sprinted out of the room, not wanting to claim any negative energy from the spirit. And can you really blame her? If any of us came across an event like this, I guarantee we would be out of there as quickly as possible. Now, unlike the other 2 hospitals where the clips so far have taken place, the clip that you are about to be exposed to happened in an abandoned one. This meant that it was not being operated, and nobody, not even the person filming, should have been in there making the event that happened more unexplainable than the rest. The time was 1 a.m. in the morning, and the man behind the camera was attempting to capture some content for views. He hoped to come across some mild activity, but nothing too frightening, and what he did end up coming across was shocking. Have a watch. The ICU door continued to open and close without any sort of interaction from humans or objects alike, meaning that an invisible force must have been acting on it. For your information, there was no window or source of wind in this area of the hospital, so before you begin to start typing about that being the cause, then stop. But I get why you would think that. Ironically, after this event, the man behind the camera decided that this kind of stuff certainly wasn't for him, and he decided to upload the video. To his shock, it actually did quite well, and if he carried on with the paranormal videos, then it is likely he would have seen great success, but in the end, it just was not worth it. The upcoming video was captured using CCTV, which is a useful tool that helps mankind with many things. Whether it is catching criminals or making sure your children are not misbehaving, these camera systems are amazing for everyday use. But every now and then they catch some wild things. By wild things I am referring to poltergeists, and you would be surprised to find out how many ghosts are really caught, not with the naked human eye, but through a lens. With that said, this video is one of those instances, and it was very strange to say the least. An apparition of a child appeared in the room with the family, and it was very disturbing how all of the people present on scene just strolled past it, like it was nothing. The implications of this was that none of them could actually see the spirit, and it was only showing itself to the camera in order to frighten the security team sitting behind it. And based on the reaction coming from behind the woman's camera, it definitely succeeded in this job. Since the CCTV did not allow her to replay the scenario, her only form of evidence that this happened was her mobile phone, so she was very smart to have filmed the whole incident, or who knows whether they would have believed her or not. Visiting your elders in hospital can be one of the most saddening and down-putting visits of your life. Due to their old age and ill condition when you make these visits, there is absolutely no guarantee that you are going to see them again afterwards, so it is very important to make it count. However, despite this being an extremely rare incident, sometimes things go well for the relative, but not so well for the visitor, and this happened in the video that I am going to show you very shortly. In a deep and heartfelt moment between father and son, the father suddenly begins to move again, which gives the son hope, but at what cost?
What?
As his father began to move and show signs of being awake and functional again, the device which was responsible for monitoring the father's heartbeat slid towards the bed. This startled the poor son, who for a moment had the fear that his father had passed, and this was his spirit's way of saying goodbye. But fortunately, this was not the case. If the ghost was not his father, though then, who knew what it was and what its motives truly were? The sad reality is that we will never be able to find out. A common misconception regarding the paranormal world is that all poltergeists have to have bad intentions. This is because the only ghost stories that get true attention and media coverage are the ones where bad and crazy things happen because, well, let's face it, from an outside perspective, they are way more entertaining. There is on the other side a nice side to ghost videos, where the spirits are nothing but friendly and supportive towards their, quote, victims. For example, the ghost in the following video decided to pay a little visit to a young girl in a children's hospital, and unlike almost every scenario on this channel, it was rather wholesome. Enjoy.
Okay, go. Who is it?
It's so weird.
Is it you?
Is it me? It's not me.
It's motion sensor. There's no one over there. Okay, do it one more time.
Do it one more time, please.
Okay. One last time.
Okay. Wait, so are we friends now? Can you do it again if we're friends now?
Oh.
We're not friends? You don't like me? Okay.
Are you a doctor?
Are you a... Wait, so do it again if you're a doctor. Wait, are you messing with us or are you actually a doctor? I don't know. Are you just messing with us? Okay. Well.
I don't know.
The spirit was happy to communicate and have fun with the girl, keeping her entertained and distracted from the fact she was in a hospital. As someone who makes all of his videos on evil spirits, this was rather refreshing to watch, and certainly acted as a nice reminder that not every poltergeist has to be evil. If you enjoyed this clip, then make sure to comment about it, because I will include more positive encounters in future videos if that is what you guys would like. Moving away from such a bright topic and back onto the dismal side of the paranormal world, this video was caught on a mobile phone by a security guard at his hospital that he called work. His job was fairly easy, and he would go as far as to say he had life lucky. It was very rare that somebody would want to cause havoc in a hospital, so there were not really many security tasks to be doing at all. But of course, there had to be one night that ruined it all. Except this did not entail a security breach. It was 11 p.m. at night, and the hospital was starting to get quiet. But just as the guard was about to step down his game and start eating his snacks, one of the most unexpected events of his life happened. Let's see if you are as frightened by this clip as I was.
Come on. Fucking Christ. See, I fucking don't. No.
Out of the blue, the wheelchair slowly glided across the corridor, and the security guard was utterly mesmerized. Now I can already hear all of the doubters explaining that the video must have been staged. Otherwise, why would the guard have been filming this moment? Well, I will completely put this theory to one side, because the reasoning behind this makes a lot of sense. Apparently, whilst the guard was walking around the hospital, he thought to himself that the chair must have moved, so took out his phone to see if it would happen again. This perfectly explains why he somehow had his phone at the ready in this rare moment. Ghostly experiences are rare, full stop, but there is one form of paranormal activity that far exceeds the rareness of others. Of course, I am referring to apparitions. The whole real gimmick of spirits is that they can do things whilst you cannot see them performing these acts, which is what makes them spooky. If you could see somebody moving your water bottle, then you would likely be much less freaked out than if it just slid off the table without any interaction. Point proven. However, every so often these ghosts enjoy going to the next level in frightening their prey by revealing their uncanny and off-putting appearance, which happened in this clip. It was filmed by a ghost hunter hired by the local council to eradicate all of the unwanted entities within a hospital, and the pay was very high. It is important to note that the council promised the ghost hunter that no one else would be on site during the search, which was a very strict protocol of his. This made the clip very inexplicable. Along the corridor from the hunter, some sort of lanky black figure peeked around the door, and it was pretty clear that this was not the figure of a human. At first, the ghost hunter's mind failed to process what he had seen, but moments later, the picture replayed in his mind, and he doubled back his steps. After pausing the recording of the incident, he supposedly went down the corridor and into the room of which the figure came out of, but no human was inside. This was obviously the act of a spirit. The Brazilian police are no joke, and you would be very silly to mess with them. Unsurprisingly though, Brazil has its fair share of criminals, and this next clip took place during a thorough search for these gangsters. The police had been searching for a set group of criminals for months leading up to this incident, and when their moment finally came to capture them, they took no second chances. They quickly armed themselves before adventuring far from civilization to the supposed complex that the criminals resided in. But what they found was far from a group of gangsters, and much more frightening. Have a watch.
Caralho, bicho, que é isso, mano? Cuidado, Judá. Cuidado, mano, que é isso, mano? Mano, não tem nada. Caralho, mano, que é isso, bicho? Caralho, mano. Mano, que é isso, bicho? Caralho, mano, bora, mano. Deus me livre, mano. Vai, mano, vai, mano. Vai, mano, vai, mano. Vai, mano. Corre. Caralho, mano, que é isso, bicho?
The officers heard some loud banging from further down the complex, so decided to go towards it, suspecting that this was the location that the criminals were hiding in. Once they arrived, they quickly realized that this was far from the case. The doors were continuously opening and closing without any sort of human interaction or visible force, which made things very freaky. Eventually, the cops realized that the place must have been some huge setup and no gang lived there. It was just a trap, luring them into one of Brazil's most haunted buildings. On July the 2nd of 2023, a video was uploaded to YouTube from Mexico, which would frighten all potential visitors from visiting the hospital of which it took place in. Before this video was uploaded, it was one of the most highly rated hospitals in the area, with the majority of patients wishing to be referred there. However, afterwards, all of this changed for the worse. Now you are probably wondering how dire the paranormal event must have been to cause such a drastic switch in the local community, and I must say that it was pretty horrible. The staff at the hospital are currently working with members of their local church, ghost experts and ghost hunters to resolve this issue. And if they fail to make any effect, the likelihood is that the place will need to close for good. Here is the clip.
No veo nada. Miren. Miren. Acaban de ver eso. Se acaba de caer un bote. Se está moviendo esto. No veo nada. No hay nadie por acá. No hay nadie por acá. A la una. Miren, se movió esto. Ahorita que venía caminando por acá. Yo no veo a nadie. Miren. 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 Miren cómo se mueve eso. Para que vean que no hay nadie aquí.
For a place which has never received any form of complaint regarding the paranormal world, this was massive news, and people were confused as to what must have caused it. The fact that seemingly out of nowhere, a place could become haunted made zero sense. But when you use your brain, I guess it was kind of inevitable. The most likely place to become a place of paranormal activity is a hospital, because several families are ripped apart within them, which can anger a lot of the patients who unfortunately end up passing away. I guess their good service, based off all of the reviews, must have kept the deceased happy for quite some time, but something must have angered one of them, or none of this would have happened. The following video took place in the office of which a man called Dan operated his small-scale business in. It usually had quite a few employees doing their work and getting about their days, but when it began to get late, they all left, leaving Dan to finish up some stuff at night. Now being all alone in this setting at night must have been an odd experience for Dan, but not one that he could not overcome. What was about to happen to him was handled very well.
Astagfirullahaladzim! Allahu Akbar! Ya Allah! Kalian lihat gak anjing redup tiba-tiba? Lihat ya di sini guys. Anjing! Dit.
Those 2 minutes were the worst of his life, and he was terrified so much to the point that he debated leaving the office early. To make things much worse, the power in most devices went out right at the moment he started filming, which just made everything that little bit more eerie and hard to handle. As I said though, in the end, Dan handled this well, and phoned a ghost hunter on the spot, which seemed to deter the spirit from continuing its acts. As well as this, he decided to stay in the office for his regular working hours to prove that he was not frightened. As we know, fear fuels the paranormal. Just might be the most ancient video I have featured on this channel, and it is a possibility that it is older than you. It was recorded in 2008 and featured a man of God, Bruce, who was a devoted Christian. Over the past few months, he believed he was suffering from a haunting because he was hearing strange sounds at night. When he went to investigate these sounds, the source was either non-existent or had escaped, so this led him to the conclusion that the majority of people come to on this channel, a spirit was behind it all. Because of this, he took out his Bible and went to bless his house by himself, but little did he know that this was a horrible decision. Strangely, all sorts of objects started to move in the room, and it was pretty obvious that Bruce had no idea what he was doing. Despite being a devout Christian, you have to be very accurate to banish a spirit from your house, and one singular mishap in the blessing sequence causes things like that to happen. Heartless was an Indian worker who took up a place of employment in the storage facilities of his local factory. Back here, the employees would keep track of stock, take the stock to the correct places when orders were made, and most importantly, restock. However, what is about to happen in the footage that I am about to show you definitely wasn't included within the job consent form.
I just saw my shoelace hanging in. Oh my god! My god, my shoelace just hanging in the air. Oh my god. Hey! You can see that shoelace in the air. Oh my god! Hey, hello?
Heartless just put his shoes in the regular old position that he always did, and had no idea why the shoelaces were hanging in the air like that. It was as if someone was holding them up. The real blow to Heartless' senses, though, were when the shoes dropped to the floor, and he was certain that this could not have happened naturally, considering there was no movement in the room to cause it. Worried about being sacked, he never told his superiors about the incident, but deeply regrets it and feels fear every time he enters that room. On July 7th of 2013, a video was uploaded to YouTube by Ramtin, and not even the gurus of the paranormal world can come up with a solution as to why this happened. The owner of the channel, Lucy, claimed to have never experienced anything like this in her life and wasn't even religious, let alone did she ever visit some sort of stupid paranormal place, because she believed that all of this was rubbish. Well, to quote her father, perhaps spirits like to pick on the non-believers, because this is definitely what happened in the case of Lucy. All kinds of random stuff started to move in the room, and Lucy had no clue what was causing it to happen. After uploading the footage to social media, even gurus have the same amount of knowledge as her, and she is left guessing what was haunting her to this day. I must say that she has not even lost any loved ones yet, so it could not possibly have been due to them, which is a conclusion that many seem to jump to. Many things can start an argument, but it is very rare that these arguments lead to something significant. However, the woman that you are moments away from being introduced to thought otherwise. Her name was Sophie, and she had been in a humongous argument with her boyfriend, which had been going on for at least 2 weeks. They refused to disclose the details of the argument, but according to Sophie, roughly an hour before the incident that I am going to show you, her boyfriend asked her if she believed in the paranormal, to which she called him a weirdo and walked into the kitchen for some food. It was on her way to the kitchen that she called him over after witnessing something very odd, and they managed to catch the next act on camera.
This book's just come off this shelf, and I blame you.
Why? No, hang on. Before
I blame you.
Why?
Oh, it's broken.
Why?
I blame you because you were asking for something.
Yeah, about an hour ago.
A leading theory about this sighting was that the boyfriend somehow coordinated this attack, because it made no sense as to why he would hint at the paranormal world so close to it, visiting them. Furthermore, the fact that he was arguing with Sophie made this possibility even more likely, but feel free to let me know if you have any different theories in the comments. Oh, and remember to subscribe whilst you are down there. In South Carolina, all sorts of wildlife can be seen causing havoc. Bears and gorillas are probably two of the most frightening species that you can come across, and the male who was filming this clip believed that he was face to face with one of them. It all started when he was sitting in his living room, watching some television as people do. It did not take long for him to hear branches falling from the trees outside, so he went to take a look, and what he expected to be an unhealthy tree dying turned out to be much more dire.
I hope you can hear this. It sounds like gorillas fighting in the tree. They're breaking limbs bigger around than me. I've never seen anything like it in my life. This is the second time I've come over here. And the first time when I got up under them trying to figure out what it was, they started breaking limbs off and throwing them at me. And I still cannot figure out what it is. Look, they're ruining this freaking place. What in God's name is it? It's bigger than me, whatever it is. Because it's breaking limbs off that it would take me 2 minutes to saw. Look, see, he's coming right above me right here. He's fixing to throw something at me, whatever it is. Yeah, they don't like you messing with them. Look. What in God's name is going on? Look, that's bigger than me. Look at that, look at that, look at that, look at that, look at that. What in Jesus' name just is doing this? Oh my God, he just took half the tree down. Something, oh my God, oh my God. Oh, it's gotta be a, I don't even think a bear would have a chance in Hades and it doing this. It's something stronger than a bear. And he is pissed. Yeah, that's a healthy tree. About 8 to 10, maybe even 12 inches in diameter that he just broke because he's pissed because I'm getting close to him. I think I'm gonna bounce because I think he just hit the ground, which means he's about to face me on foot. And I don't really want to wrestle with somebody that can tear trees down. Just because they're mad. My God, look at the tree he just freaking broke in half.
All around him, the tree branches were falling down, and in the end, a complete tree collapsed. Now, based on what he said, it is pretty obvious that he believed this was caused by a bear or some sort of primal animal. However, this definitely was not the case. Nothing could be seen in his 3 minutes outside, leading me to be certain that a ghost of some sort was having some fun in the woods. Dogs, also known as man's best friend, are the most loyal and protective species on our planet. They defend their humans from all sorts of dangers, and Charlie, the golden retriever on screen, was no different. Take a look.
It has been freaking me out for about 15 minutes. I know, dude. What's going on? What are you seeing? Something's been spooking him. He's jumping around. This dude. What are you seeing? Why don't you back up? Charlie. I know. Calm down. It's okay. What are you seeing? You're freaking me out, buddy. Do we need to go? Should we go, Bubba? You tell me when it's time to go. Because I don't know what you're looking at, but when we need to go, you let me know, buddy. What's freaking you out, bub? Okay. Should we go? Yeah? You leave when we gotta go. As soon as you walk out, I'll be right behind you.
There were a few events in this video that I would like to look over, with the first happening very early. Roughly 12 seconds into the TikTok, a shadow could be seen gliding across above the curtains, which was more than likely a spirit. Secondly, towards the end of the clip, a voice whispers something along the line of "Dad" in a questioning tone. This made things very odd for the man behind the camera, because he explained after uploading that he had no kids whatsoever, and this freaked him out deeply. He would not have believed it if it was not for Charlie raising the concerns, though, so the dog most certainly gets the MVP award for this clip. In the following video, a woman was doing something as simple as kitchen work when something from the paranormal world decided to come and disturb her work. It bewilders me that these spirits manage to do their things at the most inconvenient times, on such a consistent basis, and this one did its job perfectly at freaking out its victims. It is safe to say that they were left utterly clueless and did not know how to advance afterwards.
That wasn't me. I just heard a man's voice.
Right?
I 100% just heard a man's voice and it was not yours.
I swear. That's all
Oh my god, I have like crazy goosebumps.
If you were listening very closely, a spirit could be heard whispering the word hello down the ear of the woman. And as you could tell, she was absolutely terrified. I know I would have been too. James was a 30-year-old man who had no interest in paranormal activity until around a year before the upcoming recording. You see, he lived a normal life and was very outward about his beliefs regarding religion. He believed that science was the only answer and that a spiritual world is just nonsense. Little did he know that he was about to learn his lesson. Progressively, over the days and months, some odd things started happening in James's house until eventually he could not ignore it for any longer. He contacted a priest to visit his home and bless it, which they did. However, this did not solve anything because the following clip occurred shortly after.
Yo.
For an unknown reason, James kept hearing a rattling sound coming from the cabinet you could see, and he decided to investigate it. It was at this very moment that his gaming chair turned around without any contact from anything, and this obviously shocked him. He truly believed that getting the house blessed was an amazing idea and would save him from the evil entities, but surprisingly, this was not the case, and things only got more extreme.
Yo. Yo.
Somehow, a few more objects in this room moved, and this was enough to completely convince James that he had no chance of banishing the entity living in his house. He made his new mission to sell the house off at a good price and purchase a new one closer to his parents. We were not updated on how this mission went. In a past video on this channel, we have gone into the life of Daniel, a young adult who was going through one of the worst times of his life. He and his now ex-girlfriend Kate decided they were going to split rent on a property together to make things much easier. However, she broke up with him shortly after and went back to their parents. This really put Daniel in the mud because he had terms with the landlord that the house would be occupied for a minimum of 6 months, so he was going to be billed for that length of time. As if this was not stressful enough, he was struggling to sleep due to some strange phenomena from the closet. At random intervals, he would hear sounds and see movement from inside there, which was what he wanted whatsoever. The video I am about to show you is the most recent one from his struggles, and it gets bad.
So it just started knocking in the closet again, and actually the doll has moved since yesterday because it was in the corner, like kind of on its back looking upwards, and now it's upright, so that's kind of scary. See if it'll knock anymore. Or it'll just move the shirt in the closet. Hey, if you can hear me, just move it again. Alright. We can actually just go check it out. Because there's no one in here. It's not really, it's kind of cluttered, so yesterday it was over here.
Daniel actually managed to communicate with the spirit through moving the shirt, which was quite a smart method of getting around the spirit-to-human barrier. Surprisingly, the spirit complied with his questions and continued to move the shirt, which proved that there was something present that night, although that being a bad thing. In a very recent video, we witnessed a James experiment which is going to take some additional explaining for those of you who did not watch the content I am referencing. William Sloane was a normal boy who believed that his house was being haunted by a spirit he decided to name James. Every single day, things so far out of the ordinary you would not believe it were happening, and despite William telling his parents all of this, none of them believed a word. In order to counter this, he decided to start running James tests, which were experiments trying to gain evidence of the ghost's existence. This video comes from a rather peculiar test that I believe you should see. Evil spirits are more tempted to tamper with holy books, so William decided it would be smart to place a book discussing religion on his living room bookshelf. As well as this, he put a camera opposite the shelf in order to capture anything that happened to the book on tape, and he caught something all right. Take a look.
Okay, I've been going over the footage from last night, and it's pretty crazy. And I don't know what's going on, but I tell you, I've been blaming my cats since I got them for pulling my records off the shelf. And I don't know, sometimes it might be them, but it definitely wasn't last night.
First of all, the holy book was on the floor in no time, and this proved William's hypothesis at the start of this experiment. Whatever was in his house was evil. Just to put the icing on the cake, James moved an item on the table all the way across it to confirm that the book did not in fact magically fall to the ground. This James test proved a success, and comment if you like them, because I will be sure to include more in future. In the following video, Mackenzie was in her room building her new bed when she suddenly got the urge to look out into the neighborhood. This urge came from a dark feeling that something was up, and her heart continuously assured her that this disturbance was coming from outside. Listening to her urges, she went over to the window and checked up on the streets. It was at this point that something extremely strange caught her eye.
I'm like fucking scared. There is no one standing there, but there's a silhouette, like a shadow of a person. Yeah.
Strangely, the shadow of a human could be seen on the wall, and it was evident that nobody was standing on the street. Mackenzie was very perplexed by this, and felt the dark feelings in her body surge further. She knew for certain that this was not meant to be happening. Fortunately though, she was not the only person who got a weird feeling from this, and discovered that her entire audience felt the same way, which forced her to produce a follow-up explanation.
Hi, I decided to record this video because when I saw amount of comments and videos and direct messages for the video that I have recorded like on Saturday, so I was shocked. So people who are saying that it was spray painted, no, it was not. I'm gonna show you a video. I'm gonna show what is happening now. People that are saying that I have photoshopped that, damn, it took me 4 like tries for me to be able to record this video because I didn't realize that there are like stories and videos, and in videos you can select like 3 minutes long video. So that's another thing. Even though I'm a white lady in her 30s, and usually in horror movies we are killed first, I that day, like 5 minutes after I took that video, I went downstairs to check what is like causing that, because even though I was very scared, I was like, I'm too curious. Nothing could cause that. Nothing. Tomorrow when I'm gonna go to work, I'm gonna take a video so that if anyone is interested, like you can check that yourself. But that, like, you know, like a shadow can be either like a direct projection of something, or like it needs to have like a trail from something that is like causing this to have a shadow. I'm like, oh. But yeah, it did not have that. It did not. And also the like the lamppost that was like very, very far ahead, it was not reaching, like I could see like when its shadow was finishing. And also the building that is up on the opposite street, like opposite that building, you know, that shadow, it was not causing that. I have no idea. I do believe in those kind of things a bit, but not as much. And I was so scared. I was not a little bit scared, I was scared. But then I decided to enjoy my bank holiday weekend. And people from UK, I hope you enjoyed the bank holiday. Yeah. So as you see, there is nothing. Nothing at all. Yeah. That's a lamppost on like next to my neighbors. And it would project like here. So yeah. Nothing.
In this explanation, she broke down the important aspects of the prior clip and debunked all of the allegations that the shadow was not that of a ghost. The main theory was that it was cast by something real and only appeared as a human figure. But after having a look at the street towards the end of the explanations, this theory was shut down immediately. Mike and Sam were 2 well-renowned ghost hunters around their town, and when I say renowned, I mean it. They would go on expeditions every week, desperate to find scientific evidence of the paranormal world, and in the next clip, they came very close. It took place in the woodlands next to a highway, where it was rumored that somebody passed away willingly. Their goal on this mission was to capture an interaction with the spirit of that person on camera, to prove that spirits are always watching over their point of death, and it went well in that book.
My name is Mike, this is my friend Sam. Hello. We don't mean any disrespect, we're only here to learn and communicate. This may be your last opportunity to communicate with anyone.
Whenever you asked that last question, the camera just died.
Really? Was it charged?
Yeah, it was fully charged. I mean, I K2, check the K2. Is something over there?
I haven't seen anything, bro.
Dude, something moved over there, I swear. Wait, it's moving.
Whoa! Where's it at?
If you paid very close attention to the ending of this clip, a pale figure could be seen gliding across the camera. This was very weird considering Mike and Sam were the only people on the expedition, and the figure looked way too transparent to be that of a human being. I guess the truth is that we will never really know though. All we do know is that this is the closest that Mike and Sam got to undeniable evidence of the paranormal world. Ghost hunting is a profession carried out by only the bravest of people, and that characteristic can definitely be said to describe Henry, the British hunter that you are about to step into the shoes of. Henry had been ghost hunting for 3 years, up until the point of this clip, and he fell in love with the hobby, becoming one of the hardest people to strike fear into on the planet. However, on the adventure that we are discussing in this video, the spirit got very close to breaking him. It took place at 1 a.m. in an abandoned mansion described as the place of nightmares. It was well known around the mansion's area that it was not a normal place, but nobody truly knew why, since the last family to live there did not pass away within its walls. Anyway, that is besides the main point. This mansion was haunted, and Henry was inside it. Let's take a look at some of the events that happened.
This place is fucking horrible.
Now, other than the drawer opening at the beginning, you are probably wondering what on earth made this clip worthy of making the mansion a certainly haunted place. The drawer could have easily slipped open by itself, due to a problem with it, so in the eyes of most people, this was far from evidence. Well, I want you to take note of where you saw a fire extinguisher here, on the table at the back, before I play something from a lot later in the video. Ready? Here we go. If you paid enough attention, you would be able to see that the extinguisher moved to a different location in the room. This made no sense because Henry did not revisit the room in between these timestamps, so it could not have been him. A lot more happened in that mansion, but I do not have the time to include it in this video, so subscribe to not miss the future clips from this adventure. In the following video, Daza was selected for the night shift in his local corner store. The staff liked to alternate this shift because it did not feel fair for the person working on it to be paid the same as the rest, because it was obviously a much more demanding time to come into work. At the time of this recording, Daza was finishing off rearranging the shelves and was then going to lock up the store for the night to prevent any robberies from taking place. This was probably the most annoying job in the store because of how many things needed shutting off before the store became closed, but regardless, he needed to do it anyways. It was during this job role that something absolutely jaw-dropping occurred though, and he was fortunate to have noticed it happen because of how quickly it happened.
Yo queriendo grabar mi rutina y pasa esto.
Now I doubt even you managed to understand what happened in this clip, but do not worry because I will explain it to you. At the timestamp of 37 seconds, a figure could be seen walking past the shelves, and Darza obviously went to check that he had not gotten a final customer to make his life even harder. To his delight, there was no customer on the other side. To his dismay, rather, this meant that whatever passed by must have been a spirit. Since that day, he has always felt an odd feeling in the store, but his manager says he is probably experiencing the placebo effect. Regardless of what he was experiencing, though, it was 100% that he at least encountered the spirit once. 2 days after that incident, the same employee was on a night shift when something equally as suspicious as the last time occurred. It is important to note that he was mopping the entire floor, so it was impossible that what he found was present beforehand. Take a look.
Pensé que era puro pedo que anda una niña.
Acabo de trapear. No me lo van a creer, pero bachen. Si son cuerdas para distinguirlas, si son unas patitas. Ay, güey, no seas mamón, verga.
Shockingly, the floor was covered in footprints, except not ones that you would be likely to see. They were white and flat, as if they weren't real, and Darza explained that even after feeling the prints, they just felt like the floor did normally. This was made even more mysterious when Darza came back to work the next evening to find that they were absent despite him leaving them there so he could show his boss. If that does not scream spirit to you, then I have no idea what does. The following video was recorded by a woman called Mrs. Rez, but she prefers to keep her full name off her TikTok page. She had been going through paranormal activity for roughly 2 months in the build-up to this video, and quite frankly, it was getting too bad. Mrs. Rez had 2 babies who she and their father loved very much, but unfortunately the father worked the night shift a lot, so was not present on this fateful night. Never did any of them think that the spirits would start tampering with their baby's stuff.
I rebuke you in Jesus' name. I rebuke you in Jesus' name. I rebuke you in Jesus' name. Leave these babies alone.
The skateboard toy continued moving backwards and forwards, despite being rebuked several times by Mrs. Rez, showing us just how little authority she had in this situation. Furthermore, some unintellectual whispering noises could be heard down the camera, and who knows who generated them. We do know for certain that there was a spirit in the room with them, though. Being a soldier is a tough job, especially when it forces you to leave your loved ones to put your life at risk for your country. This was the case for the soldier in our upcoming clip, who had been deployed in Iraq. The tape initially started because he was filming some sort of life update to his family and friends, so that they could be reassured that he was okay. But if anything, it showed the opposite. He was far from okay, and not for war-related reasons.
Alright. So this is my first video log, just kind of giving a shout out back home, letting everybody know I love them, I miss them. Mom, Will, I really wish I could be home with y'all. I really miss home. I hate being here. Trish, I love you. I wish I could be home.
Officers before him, who must have passed away in combat, so it would make sense why this place would host haunting activity. This next video was uploaded to YouTube on December 31st of 2022 and encaptivated a test by a man called Ivan. Ivan had been convinced that he was being haunted for a solid 2 weeks and it got to a point that he had to tell the people that he loved and trusted around him. To his dismay, he was completely dismissed, and everybody looked at him as some sort of psychopath for even thinking that a ghost would haunt him. But this is when he got the motivation to catch the ghost. He went to his room late at night, took out his phone and hit record, and this is when something incredible happened.
Here are my hands. Did you see that? Did you fucking see that? Here are my feet, not moving. Here are my hands and my feet. Oh shit, hold on. Here's my face. Why'd you do that? Can you do it again? You forgot, you didn't, did you? There's so many fucking things flying across my screen. I feel like it's dust. It's gotta be dust. I'm gonna take a shot. Mom? No. No. No way.
Not once but twice the ghost listened to Ivan and dropped some items to the ground. This was creepy for very obvious reasons, because not only did it do these things, it did them on command, showing that it had some human comprehension. Despite having this piece of evidence to use at his favor against the allegations of him being crazy, Ivan still had 3 more days before he was due the doctor checkup, so thought that he might as well gather some more evidence. He took it upon himself to take his phone out and start filming every time paranormal levels seemed to have a rise, and in doing this, he managed to capture one more evidential video.
Am I tripping? Am I tripping? You see that? Oh, okay. Can you not do that, please? Yeah, I'm leaving.
This time the ghost moved the handheld vacuum cleaner and even made it balance in an unnatural position for a short period of time. This could not have happened if it had not been a poltergeist, so Ivan was set on him not being crazy, and now had to convince his loved ones. He showed them the videos, and to his fortune, they all believed him, going as far as to trying to cancel the doctor's appointment. For some dumb reason, he still had to attend, but they did not find anything psycho about him, and he left the situation as a victim rather than a maniac. The following video was filmed by a woman called Rachel, and her content actually featured on this channel in our last video, and this is a continuation of her story. For those of you who didn't watch the video, I will give you a quick recap, but I highly recommend giving it a watch after this one, because it was very spooky. Anyways, Rachel took her son to a local fun fair for his birthday when he decided to purchase an Elmo balloon because he really liked watching the Muppets. Of course, due to it being his birthday, she fulfilled the request, but she had no clue what was actually in store. This balloon turned out to be highly haunted, and since getting it, it continuously made its way to the basement. This was creepy, and all but the kid wanted to keep his balloon, so both parents decided to let him keep hold of it, knowing that it would deflate eventually. However, this did not look like happening, and the paranormal events were starting to happen without the balloon's presence in certain rooms. The following video is a scenario when this happened.
Okay, knock. I felt it right under me.
The spirit that must have been controlling the Elmo balloon would have been making these knocking sounds, and the two parents were beginning to get very freaked out for good reason. There was one huge positive from this whole situation though. The Elmo balloon was not involved in the haunting, which could have meant it had finally deflated enough for the hauntings to come to a halt, at least they thought. This theory would be disproved just as quickly as it was made with one of the most frightening clips ever uploaded on my channel. Have a watch at your own risk. The balloon floated to the basement again, except this time, something far more horrifying happened. Rather than coming to a standstill and nothing happening, a face peeked around the basement door, and it is safe to say that it was uncanny. The ending of this story is surprisingly untold, and we can only sit and hope that Rachel and her family are okay. If they do end up providing any updates, though, you will hear it first on Haunter, so be sure to subscribe. Eli was the last person you would expect to become a victim of paranormal activity, and this was fact. He was a devoted Christian and made sure to pray every day, so the last thing that you would expect to happen to him would be a ghost coming to haunt him. On top of being a Christian, Eli was a house painter and did the task freelance, meaning that people came to him for their houses to be done. He made a large amount of money doing this gig and was more wealthy than your average man, but even the wealthy become nothing when placed in front of a paranormal threat. Eli was working late on some drywall when this happened.
Something that was really cool, and I feel like it sets this house apart. The reason why I'm just not founding this crawl space is because of this drywall. The owner, she had this drywall covering the crawl space. That's not the cool thing about it. And I want y'all to check this out. So while I was here, I found this table, and I also found this extra space right here. You have a vent right there. I think I just heard some footsteps.
Eli found some form of unique part of the house, and he unfortunately let curiosity get the better of him. If he had just continued painting, then perhaps this clip would have never happened, but it did, and there is nothing that we can do about it. He heard footsteps above him and quickly made his way out of the crawl space, but little did he know that he was nowhere near safe, and this was only the beginning. It is important to note that none of the house owners were present, and this was not a squatter.
This can't be a squatter.
First of all, the voice of a little girl could be heard, and that voice in the situation definitely connotated some sort of evil spirit. After hearing this voice, he made his way back downstairs away from the girl's voice and managed to catch the crawlspace entrance opening slowly on camera as if the spirit was inviting him back inside. Eli said his prayers and left the facility, valuing his life and his health over the money that he would have got his hands on. In the following video, a young girl by the name of Sabrina was in her room doing regular things when some really weird things began to happen. Out of panic, she ran out of the room to the living room where the rest of her family were, but shortly after she decided to go back and investigate with her phone. What she managed to film was very freaky. First of all, if you paid close attention, you would have noticed that the door opened without any form of interaction from Sabrina, which was very weird. This was nothing in comparison to what actually happened in the room though. From falling books to closing wardrobes, everything paranormal went down in there, and we can only hope that Sabrina managed to get out okay. On December the 5th of 2011, Ricky Squire was filming an innocent video for the boys' group chat. Everybody in the chat decided to show off some of their coolest possessions, and it happened to be Ricky's turn, so he was walking around recording show-off worthy things. One of these things happened to be his truck, which was an impressive thing to own at the age of Ricky at the time. It was while he was introducing this truck to his video though that the unexpected happened, and fortunately, he did not stop the recording.
There's my truck. I fucking need to sell that fucking thing. Brandon don't want to sell it though. I don't know what the fuck for. Shit. Bailey! What the? Bailey! What the f***? What the?
Somehow, the chair in the kitchen moved on its own accord, and it was very clear that there were no strings or other interfering items in the area. As if this was not enough to scare the living daylight out of Ricky, the spirit also opened the refrigerator door, and based on the reaction it got from Ricky, it certainly did the job of provoking fear. Losing the life of a loved one is a very sad time for anybody, and the feeling is the same when you lose a pet. The man in the following video had owned a dog for several years now, and he just could not picture a life without the pet until it left him. 3 days prior to this ghostly encounter, the dog was unfortunately put down due to its illness, and whilst it was the best that they could do for the hound, it broke the family's heart regardless. You know what they say when you lose a loved one though? They will always be with you in your heart. Well, that was the case for this family.
Hey! Hey!
One thing that the dog used to always enjoy doing was opening and closing the door to his crate, and none of them knew why. At the time, the man behind the camera did not realize the connection between what was happening to the crate and the passing of his dog. But after the realization hit him, he knew that it was his long-serving pet, which came back to visit him and regretted showing fear and discomfort. Abdullah was a man who did not have many friends, so he took a lot of passion when it came to live streaming. This activity gave him a way to connect with tons of people, as well as make some pocket money on the side of his real job, so there were no real negatives to doing it. However, one fateful night when he was doing one of his usual streams, where he would discuss life with his viewers, something extremely shocking happened, and you may have a look.
I was live on Instagram and then this happened.
कौन? कौन? الله لا إله إلا هو الكل لا تؤذوا سنة ولا نوم له ما في السماوات وما في الأرض من ذا الذي يشفعون له لا بإذنه يعلم ما بين أيديهم وما خلفهم ولا يؤتون بشيء من علمه إلا ما شاء وسع كرسيه السماوات والأرض ولا يؤوده حفظهما وهو العلي العظيم من سمعه. कौन हो? कौन? It's around 11. मैं भी Instagram पे भी live आया हुआ था. I was just live on Instagram and कौन? मैं खोल लगा था. मैं नहीं खोलूंगा.
Very late at night, Abdullah's door began to knock, and due to the time this should not have been happening. At first, he jumped to the conclusion that it was a group of drunk people after a party or something along those lines, but it is pretty safe to assume that if that were the case, they would have responded to his words. When Abdullah posted this video online, everybody thought that he was going crazy if he seriously had any belief that this was caused by a spirit. There was no way a ghost would waste its time knocking on a door when it could just stroll through it, right? Well, Abdullah read all of the comments claiming that this was not a ghost and decided to make a second part. Here it is.
So this happened again.
अब्बा अपना नाम बताओ पहले मुझे. अपना नाम. मेरा नाम अब्दुल्ला. अपना नाम बताओ. तुम्हारा अब्दुल्ला मैं हूं, तुम नहीं हो. नहीं खोलना मैंने. ओके मुझे आयतुल कुर्सी आती है. मैं आयतुल कुर्सी पढ़ना स्टार्ट कर दूंगा. निकल जाओ यहां से. आओ अंदर आओ. आओ आओ अंदर. अब जो भी हो, मगर मेरी एक बात याद रखना, जहां से भी तुमने जो भी करना तुम.
This time around, things became much freakier and much less deniable, even for the non-believers. Mimics are some of the most frustrating and horrifying poltergeist forms because they can copy anyone's voice, making it really easy for them to lure you into doing something. In this particular scenario, they managed to lure Abdullah into opening his door, which must have allowed them inside of the house. Due to Abdullah being huge on religion and not committing many sins, with the ones he had committed being repented for, it made no sense as to why these spirits chose him to cast their hauntings upon. Unfortunately, we will never truly know whether or not they meant harm, because after causing a small mess, they did not do much. But I advise you to wish Abdullah luck in the comments. Earlier in this video, we looked into the household of a family who sadly lost their dog to an illness, but this next clip is quite the opposite. It took place in the house of Valentina, a widow who divorced her husband years ago and now lives in a small, one-floor bungalow with no one other than her 2 dogs. Now she is very lucky to have a supportive family that comes over and checks on her frequently in case something was to go wrong, and in the following clip, something most definitely went wrong. Valentina was recording a simple video for herself where she was calling over her 2 dogs when all of a sudden this happened.
Ho preso il telefono in mano perché sono 2 giorni che mi butta in terra i vasetti, soprattutto quello di qua a destra vicino alla zuppiera. E quindi siccome lo stava facendo anche adesso... Ulisse! Ulisse! Vieni, andiamo, dai! Ulisse! Andiamo fuori, via, andiamo! Vieni! Vieni, amore, si va fuori, vieni! Vieni! Vieni qua, vieni! Bravo, amore, bravo! Bravo, Ulisse! Andiamo fuori? Andiamo fuori? Vuoi andare fuori con la mamma? Andiamo? Mettiti qui vicino a me, via. Così. Bravo, Ulisse, così. Guarda, non lo fa più. Russi da sveglio. Russi da sveglio. Amore. Dai, non ci credo, non lo fa più. Andiamo fuori, Ulisse. Eccolo, l'ho fatto. Andiamo fuori? Oddio, c'è poco da ridere, però vabbè. Andiamo fuori. Oh, mio. Andiamo fuori, vuoi andare fuori? Eh sì? Oh mio Dio, signore. Di solito prendi questi. Questo di solito fa cadere. Vabbè. Visto? Dai, rifacciamolo. Rifammelo, vai. Ulisse. Tranquilli loro oggi, Ma quanto è strano, che non ci si può... Come fai a spiegare queste cose? Non le spieghi più.
An ornament fell from the cabinet below the television, and Valentina, understandably, stood up to go and reclaim it. What made this very weird was the fact that the ornaments never moved, and it was in a highly stable position. Furthermore, there was no shake or anything of the sort which could have incentivized this collapse to happen, so who knows what went on. What we do know, though, is that Valentina uploaded a second video to her TikTok account, showing even more paranormal activity, and this time around it was much harder to deny.
Buongiorno, sono sola a casa. Ulisse dorme, la Clio è sotto il letto. Praticamente da ieri, quando ho fatto il video, ieri sera mi ero accorta che la porta si era aperta. Non so se la cosa è correlata dal fatto che ho aperto... Oh! Ho aperto il baule. Lo so. Perché era già un po' di tempo che... In questa mano sto tenendo il telefono.
Strangely, the door opened itself not once but twice, and it does not take a genius to know that this had to have been a spirit. Valentina explained that no windows were open during this event, meaning that it could not have been the wind, and paired with the fact the ornament fell from the television just a few days prior to this, things were not looking too good. Valentina let her family know about the incident and went as far as to show them the video. But unfortunately, there was nothing that any of them could do about it. Feel free to comment some ideas for them. Embalming is a process that is undergone in hospitals, and in case you do not know what this is, let me explain. In simple terms, it describes the process where a human body is preserved using preservatives so that the effects of natural deterioration are slowed. Now on the surface, the video that shows this process seems to be normal, but see if you can spot or hear the creepy part about it.
El día de hoy estamos transmitiendo un video y vamos a hacer o vamos a demostrarle cuál es uno de los trabajos más raros, difíciles del mundo, que es un embalsamado. Estamos en el laboratorio de un embalsamado y nos van a explicar cómo es que se hace este trabajo, que es uno de los más raros, más difíciles del mundo. Y no hay muchos que lo hagan. Y estamos aquí con el director de esta casa funeraria. ¿Cuál es su nombre?
Hola, ¿qué tal? Miguel Ángel Contreras, de Contreras Casa Funeral en Guadalajara, Jalisco.
¿Cómo está, Miguel Ángel?
Muy bien, muchas gracias.
Miguel Ángel, este es uno de los trabajos más raros, extraños y difíciles del mundo, ¿cierto?
Sí, así es. No cualquiera lo hace, no cualquiera sabe el arte de embalsamamiento. Por lo tanto, nos sentimos orgullosos porque somos sabedores de este arte.
Perfecto. Yo nunca había estado en el laboratorio.
Some sort of screaming noise could be heard in the background, and it sounded awfully like the sound of a child. If the case was a kid pleading for help, then who knows if they are okay. But on the other, and more likely, hand, it could have been a poltergeist, specifically belonging to the man being embalmed, expressing its annoyance. The following video was recorded in the household of Sheila, an aging woman who had no real opinion on the paranormal world. She was known around town as your ordinary old lady, always complaining and had no idea how to operate technology. However, she fortunately did know how to record. One random day, Sheila heard some strange noises coming from her living room, so decided that it would be best to go and investigate. Little did she know that what was happening would leave her discomforted for hours.
Look, the light is on. You can clearly see there is no fishing wire or strings. It's just hovering. Look at that.
As weird as this may have been, the phone continued to levitate above its dock, and it was clear that there were no strings or items of intervention attached. Sheila decided to film the incident so that she could show her friends at the club she visited, called the Ladies' Circle, who offered help to those who were struggling. To her dismay, though, they all laughed at her, and she was nicknamed Psycho Sheila. After being given this nickname, Sheila's self-esteem deflated, and she decided to leave the Ladies' Circle despite it doing so much for her. She informed her only child that she made that decision, and feeling sympathetic, the daughter visited her mother for a weekend. It was during this visit that the phone-moving spirit gained another witness, this time a much more believable one.
Don't touch her. You don't have to touch her. No.
Whilst Sheila's daughter was using the restroom, the phone started to levitate again, and she called her daughter back into the room to make sure that she saw what was happening. Suddenly, the phone dropped back down as if the spirit was attempting to hide itself from another witness, but it was too late. Throughout the following week, the duo visited several churches hoping that they would be able to help them overcome the haunting, and only one followed through. A priest was sent to Sheila's house and successfully banished the poltergeist which was haunting it, and Sheila was readmitted into the Ladies' Circle, where they all apologized to her for their horrible actions. The lesson of the story was that even the darkest and most spooky of stories can have a positive ending. Mikhailo was a young ghost hunter who had only recently found the business in his interests. He grew up for most of his life being told that he was useless to society because he failed every single one of his exams and was unemployed. Regardless of such a horrible start to his life, the paranormal world saved him. When he was just 11 years old, he experienced his first haunting, and being honest with himself, he was terrified of it. The back of his mind, on the other hand, found the encounter interesting, and he has been wanting more of them ever since. The upcoming clip comes from his second mission as a ghost hunter, where he was hired to search an abandoned house for paranormal activity. A family of 4 were all murdered together in the household 3 years before the recording, and this is why the council believed it to be haunted. They just needed Mikhailo to certify this for them. On his mission, he found several leads that showed just how haunted the house was, and here was the first one. Strangely, the mirror started shaking aggressively, and it was very obvious that this was happening without any kind of human interaction. Nothing could be seen on screen that could have possibly caused such a shake for such a drastic period, which led Mikhailo to include this sighting in his end of mission report. But this was not the only thing he found. To be precise, he was only just getting started.
Так, нужно включать ЭГФ. Так, по ЭГФ тишина. Грохот продолжается. Дай мне знак.
Shortly after beckoning the ghost to give him a sign of its presence, a straw shelf with a teddy on it started to shuffle its way in front of the doorway. It is extremely rare for a spirit to comply so easily with people, especially a ghost hunter who is usually there to exterminate them, so there was a lot of speculation regarding this capture. People believe that the family who haunted the place wanted to be banished so that they could be set free from the four walls. However, others think there was a much darker reason for their obligation to obey. Perhaps they were incentivizing Mikhailo to continue his mission so that they could haunt him further. If that was the case, then they had a huge success. The shaking of this portrait continued for around 15 minutes after the recording ended, and Mikhailo finally had enough evidence of a ghost to be paid for his work. He imported all of the clips into a folder which he shared with the client and posted them to YouTube so that he could gain more employers through that platform. It is safe to say that his career will only go up from here, and if he posts anything else, then I will be sure to share it with you, so make sure to subscribe. On October the 6th of 2011, a man who lived on his own was making himself some dinner when he suddenly felt the urge to go into the living room. This urge was one that he could not and still cannot explain, but what he does know is that he could not stop himself from going there, and only time would tell why. Once he entered the room, he explained that he felt cold and unwelcome, which was not a usual feeling in his house. Little did he know that it was a spiritual presence causing this.
Holy crap. Holy crap. I can't believe I just got that on film. Oh my, holy crap. I was just moving a little bit there for me touching it, but I don't believe that just happened. I didn't think I'd get anything. Well, I'm definitely going to be filming this area more. If there's anyone out there, please shut this door again. If there's anybody at all out there, please just shut the door. Move it just a little bit, just to show us that you're truly out there. Come on, do it one more time. One more. That's all I'm asking for. Just one more time, please. Show us that you're here. Show us your presence. Just move the door. Please, show us you're here. Show us that you're present. Let your presence be known by shutting this door one more time. I know you already did it, but please do it again. I don't know if I'm gonna get it again. Can't believe I just saw that. If you're out there, please shut this door one more time. That's all I'm asking. Just move. Oh my god. Holy shit. Okay, I'm getting seriously freaked out right now. I'll show you guys one more time that there's, oh my, holy crap. There's nothing even attached here.
Now it took a lot of begging, but eventually the ghost made its mind up and closed the door a second time. What made this time more impactful was that the man had shown the audience that the door had no strings attached beforehand, so it was clear that this must have been done by a spirit. As well as this, both sides of the door were on camera, so unlike the first time around, there were no accusations of there being a human on the other side. Now it is safe to say that humans can cook, and that is an undeniable fact. Just look at the things that we have made over the years. From paella to curry, the dishes go on, and cultures are very proud of what they have produced. However, we are not the only things that can operate in a kitchen. For some reason, ghost sightings in the kitchen have spiked massively over the last few years, and it is a trend that has come with no explanation. The video that you are about to watch follows said trend perfectly and is disturbing to say the least. Have a watch.
What the fuck was that all about, dude? What the fuck is that all about? I've been trying to fast. Are you telling me that I need to eat? No. Let me try to be healthy. I'm not even...
Somehow the pan moved on its own accord and went completely out of position. It was not like one of those regular collapses where a pan loses balance though. It was unnatural, like something invisible was moving it. To make things even stranger, the teenager who filmed the video, Callum, felt no different than he usually did. A ghostly presence is usually accompanied by a cold feeling, or at least some unease, but not this one, which made the case ever more mysterious. The audience of the clip have been debating for some time now about what kind of spirit this was, and I am sure that the comments in this video can conclude this scenario once and for all, so feel free to share your opinions. If you had to place a bet on where a spirit would be most likely to appear, what would you put your paycheck on? A basement? A graveyard? A historic battlefield? After I introduce you to the next piece of footage, you will not choose any of those options. You will choose a hospital. A nurse was passing by the security room during one of her breaks when she decided that she would have a nosy on how her patient, Dominic, was doing with the doctor. She took out her keys and entered the room full to the brim with monitors showing every room in the hospital, but it was one specific one which managed to catch her eye, and what it showcased was odd, to put it lightly. A weird black shadow figure could be seen standing by one of the hospital beds, and at first the nurse thought it was just a visitor of the patient. However, this would shortly be debunked. Defying all laws of physics, The nurse and the doctor operating in the surgery walked right through the shadow, confirming that they could not see it nor knew of its presence. This was when the nurse thought it was a ghost. Using her radio, she managed to get in touch with the nurse in the room and asked him whether he could see another person around the hospital bed. His answer was horrible. He could not. To make matters worse, the spirit disappeared after this sentence and never came back again. Ghost experiences are far more common than most people think, but physical apparitions, on the other hand, not so much. An apparition describes when a ghost shows itself to the human eye in physical form, and these sightings are some of the most terrifying things that a human can experience. They can often look like morphed versions of humans, or on other occasions, demons, so it is safe to say that it is good that they are rare. Unfortunately though, some people do have to experience them, and this was the case for the business owner in the following video. She was at her local storage facility placing her stock into the safety of her unit when she noticed something shocking. This sighting was so disturbing that she explained afterwards how she switched facilities immediately and vowed to never return again, even going as far as giving the place 7 half-star reviews on her alt accounts. Think she went too far? Let me know in the comments after you watch it for yourself.
Okay, so I've just put some of my stuff in storage, but I wanted to show you guys this place, and I'm not going down there because the lights are broken and it's creepy as fuck. If I just take you up here, look at this. It is so creepy. It all looks the same. I've got lost in here so many bloody times because of how similar it all looks. Honestly, it's kind of giving me backroom vibes. I mean, just...
The figure looked very unhuman-like, and it made perfect sense why Riley believed that it was the apparition of a paranormal being. She went on to show the video to almost everyone she knew, but as expected, they were not believers, and provided as many quote-unquote logical solutions as they possibly could. Riley was not having any of it though. What she saw was a spirit, and nobody was about to alter her opinions. In the following video, Amy was minding her own business sorting out some paperwork when a major disturbance stood in her way. This disturbance was so unexpected that she referred to it as a trauma event, but I will let you form your own opinion on such a bold statement. Take a look.
Okay guys, I'm in here again. Just put some clothes in the dryer. I have all the lights on because I get freaked out when I'm down here alone, but I heard something coming from, I think it was the bathroom. It sounded like something slid or maybe like a knocking sound or something like that. It sounded creepy. Oh my god. Oh my god, oh my god, oh my god. There's nobody in here, guys. It's just me. Literally just me. Okay, upstairs I go. Bye-bye.
Strangely, Amy heard a banging sound coming from the bathroom and decided that she must act upon it. She went to investigate the bathroom, and for a good 10 seconds, nothing happened. However, this grace period, if you will, did not last. Moments after entering the room, a drawer slid open without any contact, and this frightened Amy to the extreme, as she had never experienced anything paranormal. It is safe to say that this incident left an imprint on the victim, and they would never forget what happened. Roland with me is a common name brought up on this channel, and this is simply because of the sheer amount of paranormal experiences he has documented over the years. He is one of those YouTubers who visit haunted locations for videos, but in more recent times, the haunted locations visited him. Let me explain. Due to him being around spirits for so much of his time, some of them have attached to him and gone as far as coming to his home. This has led to his house being riddled with paranormal activity, and he continues to supply evidence to prove that. Here's an example.
That knife just came out of there. All right, that sink, the faucet was spinning 360, but I'm more worried about that knife right there. Right there. This was all the way in, and it came back out. And I had just put this outside for a couple days out in the backwoods. Is there a spirit here that just moved that knife? Can you please move it back? I hear something. Move the knife back. Shit. Okay.
After the proposal from Roland, the spirit complied and decided to put the knife that it moved back into its storage. Roland was quite pleased that the spirit listened to him because it meant that he still had some authority over his own house, but things would not end for him, and you will continue seeing him on this channel, so subscribe. On October 15th of 2019, Marcus was alone in his store when he made a shocking discovery. Marcus purchased the building roughly 4 years ago, and a good point to make is that nothing strange ever happened there. The store operated perfectly, with the employee welfare standards being described as through the roof. But all good things must come to an end, and this was certainly the case for what was meant to be a peaceful store. The footage you are about to see was caught at 2 p.m., so it was not a timing that you would expect to see videos of this manner coming from. Regardless of what time it was though, it was just as spooky as the usual ghost sightings, and here is why.
Cuenta que... ¡Ay, pues! Hijo de la chingada. ¿Ya vieron? Ay, a ver si quedó grabado eso. ¿Vieron cómo se aventó la puerta? Esas son las cosas que pasan aquí a veces. Ahí está la Moana. Ahí está la Moana y es lo que les digo, se avientan las cosas. Ah, pero no está tirada ni nada. Hijo de su madre, traigo la piel chinita, No, pues no. Está cabrón. Esperaba que me hubieran hecho una broma. No, anda, pues vámonos mejor.
For some reason, the spirit was repetitively opening the door and swinging it closed at maximum power. This obviously made a lot of noise and summoned Marcus from another room to come and check that everything was okay. It definitely was not. Without cutting the camera, he approached the door that was being controlled in order to catch a glance of what was behind it. To his dismay, there was nothing at all. The upcoming clip was captured by Daryl, a middle-aged office worker who despised his job. He had grown up always dreaming of becoming a successful business owner, but despite working hard for this, a change in the market left his idea to rot. This forced poor Daryl into regular employment, where he was paid a below-average wage to take calls all day, and as I previously stated, this was not fun for him. One fateful day, though, at 11 a.m., Daryl had the surprise of his life, and no matter how hard he tried to decipher what had caused it, he could not. Feel free to help him in the comments after watching this.
Some crazy paranormal shit going on. me. There's no one else around. There's no freaking strings.
Absurdly, the computer powered itself up, but this could have easily been pinned as being an issue with the general computer. However, as if the spirit knew that this was not enough to prove its presence to Daryl, it started to tamper with the cabinets, which was 100% the tipping point that made Daryl fear for his life. It is safe to say he knew that it was there and was not a fan of that idea. In the last video on this channel, we looked into the life of Jake and Faye, a father and daughter who had a very strong bond, but were facing the hardships of a haunting. In case you missed that content, Jake deployed cameras all around the house, including in Faye's room, so that he could pin down what was causing a strange feeling he had. He had this sense that something was wrong but didn't quite know what. That was until the cameras caught some movement in Faye's room. This follow-up clip took place 2 days after that one, and this time, the spirit made sure that they could meet it firsthand.
Do you hear the footsteps? I know y'all hear that, right? Do you hear it? You hear the footsteps?
Where's the steps? Is the steps over there?
It sounds like it's coming from over there.
It's over there. Because of the table. Uh-oh.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh. I know you saw that, right?
Is this seem to come with? Seem to come with?
Jeez, I know y'all saw that.
Seem to come with? Does it come with work?
Can you move it again?
Move again?
It's all out of focus now. Well, the footsteps are still going. Right when I walked by, it knocked the cup off too. Can you make it move again?
Move again. Does it come with steps? What does he the steps?
Oh, I'll keep y'all posted.
The steps is gone.
As odd as this may have been, they both heard footsteps roaming the room, and eventually the cup fell from the tabletop. This literally made 0 sense and left them both terrified, especially Faye, who was way too young for something like this. A common occurrence that we seem to always come across on this channel are ghost hunters paying the price for partaking in such a dangerous job. These hunters spend hours of their day interacting with the paranormal entities of the world, and this would be enough to drive most people insane, sometimes even going too far for the hunters themselves to handle. The video you are about to see is an example of a ghost hunter who met a spirit that went a little bit too crazy for him to cope. However, due to the extremely high pay rates that this job offered, the poor man continued onwards, and this was what happened.
السلام عليكم مرقرو دابا كيتشن كناس ومكانا عبارة الله غستي دي خطا سوبوري يا الله خير يا الله خير استغفر الله الله أكبر يا الله خير يا الله خير يا الله خير وګورې خمر ګرو يا الله خير يا الله خير تاسو ته مو ویژن ګورې کوټې پیریان دي خدا واړه دي دا وسې د وګوره خپل سیر آبار کړی ها يا الله خير يا الله خير يا الله خير استغفر الله الله أكبر وګوره ها يا الله خير يا الله خير قل أعوذ برب الناس ملك الناس إله الناس من شر الوسواس الخناس الذي يوسوس في صدور الناس من الجنة والناس يا الله خير سوقي لك سوقي يا الله خير يا الله خير يا الله خير غوريها يا الله خير سوقي لك يا الله خير يا الله خير استغفر الله الله أكبر يا الله خير سوقي لك يا الله خير يا الله خير يا الله خير.
Strangely, all sorts of objects took up lives of their own and started dancing around the room as if they had attended a disco. It was a rare occurrence for spirits to be powerful enough to move so many objects at once, so the ghost hunter instantly knew that he had a bad entity on his hands. Not that this stopped him on his mission, he needed to pay the bills somehow. For the next 10 or so minutes, the ghost hunter, who was named Ali for your information, did not come across anything out of the ordinary and was moments away from calling this task a day. Just as he turned around though and started finding his way out of the building, he heard some banging from behind and had to investigate further.
La ilaha illallah Muhammadur Rasulullah. La ilaha illallah Muhammadur Rasulullah. Allahu Akbar. La ilaha illallah Muhammadur Rasulullah. Allahu Akbar.
Everything about this closet was moving by itself, including the objects on top, which again showcased just how strong the spirit in question happened to be. Unlike the last clip, where Ali ignored the fear though, he could not help himself and ran back onto the corridor where he felt the tiniest bit more secure, but not as much as he would have wished. This led him to call it quits and run out of the building entirely. However, the ghost wanted to spook him one more time before he went on his travels.
Assalamu alaikum margaro da haga kor de tastu chi ma wi padi ki periyan di poshwali tasu banan pakhpol stergo bia wine yau zalha de ki har time periyani poshwali da gore ha la ilaha illallah Muhammadur Rasulullah. Allahu Akbar. La ilaha illallah Muhammadur Rasulullah. La ilaha illallah Muhammadur Rasulullah. Allahu Akbar. Bismillah. Allahu Akbar. Bismillah. Allahu Akbar. Bismillah. Allahu Akbar. Ya Allah khair. Ya Allah khair. Margaro taswin. Ya Allah khair. Ya Allah khair. Ya Allah khair. Allahu Akbar. Ya Allah khair. Allahu Akbar. Bismillah. Allahu Akbar. Ya Allah khair. Ya Allah. Ya Allah khair.
Just as Ali exited the building, some more paranormal stuff started to happen, and it was starting to get a little bit out of hand. When he arrived home, he documented all of these sightings into a folder for the client who paid him to search the property and received his cash, although he openly stated it was not worth it whatsoever.